Hey guys! So today I want to talk with you about cruises. So as you might know, my most popular video is my vlog about the cruise I did with MSC Cruises, and many comments on this video ask about tips and recommendations about MSC Cruises. So I thought, just because I know many people have questions about cruises, especially for MSC Cruises, I want to do a video about where you may find some question answered and some tips and my recommendations for a perfect MSC cruise. So as you might know, I've been to cruises a lot. I've been to 6 cruises with MSC, and this year I will actually do my 7th cruise as my honeymoon with my husband then. So as a note, I don't want this video to be about what kind of cruise company is the best. I just like traveling with MSC Cruises just because they were the first cruise company I did a cruise with. I never did any cruise with another cruise company just because we liked it so much, and so I don't have any comparison to other cruise companies. So I just ask you to not write down why you like other cruise companies better and why MSC sucks or why MSC is good. It's just I want to give some help for those who like to travel with MSC and never did an MSC cruise. I just want to help you, and it has nothing to do on my opinion on MSC Cruise or other cruise companies. So just as a note before I start a video. So the first thing on selecting a cruise is the time when you want to do the cruise. And this really depends on if you have a fixed date or if you're just more flexible. So if you don't want to spend that much money, it's always really cheap to do cruises in winter from October to March, sometimes even April. It depends on where you want to go. And it's just because of the winter time, because of the cold temperatures, and these are not the times where normally families and other people do their cruises, so that's why these times are cheaper. And so if you're not fixed on the time, you can think about going on winter, but you have to keep in mind that in winter the temperatures are a lot more cold, of course, and it's the time, if you go on the Mediterranean Sea, it's the time there's a more chance to have to be in a storm. And so if you don't want to be in a storm on the sea, don't go on winter because it's more likely to happen there. Keep in mind, and if you don't have any problems with the cold temperature, it's a good way to save some money. Another thing, you can save some money if you book your cruise over 6 months before you want to do the cruise. So there's always a date. Normally it's the last day of January where you have to book your cruise, and you get 350 euros per person off your cruise price. So this is one good thing to remember. Is if you want to do a cruise, just don't do that spontaneously. Except one thing, if the cruises are not that well booked, they sometimes offer you a good price just 1 month before the cruise. There are some special offers you can look, and you sometimes even spend less money than if you have booked it earlier, but this really depends. You have to keep in mind that there are sometimes are limited on which cabins you want to be and so on. So if you want to plan more, if you don't want to be that spontaneously, I would just recommend to book your cruise over 6 months before. So you have to keep in mind the date, the last day of January. That's most of the time the date where you get a good offer. About the time thing. Next thing is, of course, the tour. It's for me one of the most important things. If I want to select a cruise, I just look on which tours are available from the time I want to go, and you just can decide if you want to go to the Mediterranean Sea, and then you can think about if you want to do the Western or the Eastern Mediterranean Sea. So I like both as much. It's just what you like more. If you want to see Greece or Turkey or Croatia and so on, you should go to the Eastern Mediterranean Sea, but if you want to see Spain, France and so on, you should do the Western tour. And of course MSC Cruises offers much more than the Mediterranean Sea, but I've only did cruises on the Mediterranean Sea, so I don't have any experience on the cruises at the north of Europe like Norway and Sweden. There are some cruises, and I've never been to the Caribbean cruises, of course. There are many cruises and it's just what you like more, what you want to see. So, but I have only experienced to the Mediterranean cruises. And yes, I would like to do a cruise on the Caribbean Sea because I always want to be there. So, and a cruise is, I think, a good way to see many different islands and so on. So yeah, maybe if I have the money and the time, I will do that, because the cruises are most of the time the same price for the same days anywhere. So if you go to the Caribbean Sea or the Mediterranean Sea, it doesn't change the price, but of course you have to travel there. So the travel to the Caribbean is of course more expensive than the travel to Venice if you do the Eastern Mediterranean Sea tour. So that's something to keep in mind. And so if you did more cruises with MSC, I just would recommend to just look if there's one harbor, one city you never did, because I just have to say MSC Cruise often do the same cities, which is also nice because sometimes you know the cities, but some cities have more limitations what you can do there than other cities. And yeah, so I always try to look if there's at least one city in this tour which I never see before. And as for now, it always worked, but I think because of my many cruises in the Mediterranean Sea, it will get harder and harder each time. So for my honeymoon, I have only 2 new harbors. In the beginning, of course, every city, every harbor was new for me. So the last thing what you should think about if you select a cruise is the ship. And one thing you can keep in mind if you're selecting a ship is just if you want to have a smaller ship or a bigger ship. So for the first cruise, I would really recommend to do the smaller ships, because the smaller ship will be as big as for you as the big ship, because in the beginning the ships are so big for you that it's, I think, easier to do the first cruise on a smaller ship. But the bigger ships of course offer you more. They have more entertainment, they have more places, they have more bars, restaurants. So if you did more cruises, the bigger ships offer you more. Also, you should keep in mind if you have more sea days, so which I forgot to mention about the tours, you should always see how many days at sea you have. And if you want to see more, if you want to see more cities, it's better to have just 1 or 2 sea days. It depends on the time you want to spend your cruise. If you just want to 1 week, it's better to have just 1 sea day. And if you do 2 weeks, 2 or 3 sea days are okay. But the only thing is, if you just like to spend your time on the ship yourself, the more sea days the better, because if you don't have any sea days, you don't have that much time to look around the ship. That's my opinion, because the last cruise I didn't have any day at sea, and it was the time on the ship were really limited, which was a bit sad. But yeah, if you have more sea days, it should be a bigger ship, because there's much more to see at the cruise ship. But I also like the small ships because they have different feeling. They're just a bit smaller and everything is just it's sometimes nicer to be on a small ship, but sometimes it's better to be on a bigger ship. It's just how you like it more. But for a first cruise, I would recommend do a smaller ship, because the big ships are so big for the first time, they just overwhelm you, and the smaller ships are just more likely to see some things. Also, you have to keep in mind that the smaller ships can do some locations which the biggest can't because of their size. So sometimes you can see more with the smaller ships, more cities, and yeah. And now we're moving to the next one. So here the most tips and recommendations I give is, if you want to save some money, there are some things you can keep in mind. The first thing, like I said, is the saving if you book earlier. So there are some other things. For example, you get 5% off if you are a member at the MSC Cruise Club. And I am a member, and yeah, so you save 5%, and there are some different categories. So I'm only a classic member. I think with the next cruise I will be a silver member. My grandparents, which I did most of the cruises and did much more cruises than I did because they did twice or 3 cruises a year, are black members. The better category you are, the better savings and yeah you get. So the club membership is like you get points for every night you spend at the MSC Cruise, and then you also get some points for the money you spend on the ship. Yeah, but that's something I will tell you about later, about the things you have to spend on the ship which are not included on the price. Yeah, so it's always good if you like MSC Cruises to be a member of the MSC Cruise Club. Also you get some special offers which you only get as a club member, and I think you can do the club membership from the first MSC Cruise on. If you do the membership during your first cruise, you will get the days of the cruise already as points. So yeah, so just think about it. And other things are some special offers which are not that well known. I will tell you about both, but they're not that easy to get. We had some problems with one of them. It's, for example, the honeymoon sale offer. So if you do a cruise 6 months after your wedding, your civil wedding in Germany, you will get 50% off if you be on a cabin with a balcony, so a balcony cabin. And this was really hard to get because they want some papers of your wedding, but we booked the cruise of course before we're getting married. So yeah, it was not that easy to get, and also this thing is a limited offer. So if many couples do this, it can be that if you're too late you don't get the special offer. And so this is one nice thing which you maybe should try to get if you're getting married and if you want to do a cruise as a honeymoon. But there are also some other stuff like the young and young special offer. So you have to be under 29, and every member in the cabin gets 50% of the cruise price. So everyone in the cabin has to be under the age of 29 and so on. So, but there are some other special offers you can look it down on the MSC Cruise webpage, but they're a bit hidden, and so as for my experience it was not that easy, but just try it out. Yeah, we're really lucky that we get the honeymoon special offer, which you also can combine with the earlier booking and my MSC Club sales. So you see, we did save a lot on our cruise for our honeymoon, so this was really great, and we're so happy that we get it, because you also get some special treatment on the ship and a gift, but we don't know what it will be. Maybe it's just a small thing we don't need, but it's nice to think about it. You save some money and you have more special treatment on the ship. So yeah, but some other stuff. So this is the things you should look before booking the cruise. Is the next thing, if you book the cruise, you should think about what kind of cabin you want. Do you want indoor cabins? These are the cheapest, but you don't have a window, but it's really cheap. It's almost half the price as a balcony or a cabin with a window. But if you don't like to be in a room with no windows, I don't recommend that. I would recommend to do it if you're in a group of more people and you can stay on some other cabins and only sleep at the indoor cabins, then it's fine. But if you're for your honeymoon, for example, you just want to have a window or a balcony. So yeah, on smaller ships you don't even need the balconies that much, because there are many places where you can go to see the ocean. But on the bigger ships, it's not that easy to see the ocean that near without a balcony. So on bigger ships I would recommend to book a balcony. But on the smaller ships, I think the windows window cabins will be as fine. Yeah. One thing you also have to keep in mind, the price of the cruise with everything. So everything you eat there is already included, and you can do most of the things without any paying. So you can go to the swimming pool, of course. You can go to the fitness room and so on, do the theaters and entertainment stuff. But there are some things you have to pay extra, which is one important thing is the beverages. So the drinks you have to pay extra, except for the water in the buffet restaurant. There's some water for free, but it's not the best water, I have to say. But it's for free, and you can do all-inclusive package. It's over 20 euros a day, and there's almost everything included. But I think it's really pricey, so for me it's easier to buy every beverage I want to have extra and not in a package included. But if you just don't want to think about it, just book the all-inclusive beverage package. Yeah. And also there are some different categories. So first category is Bella, which is just the normal cruise, not anything extra, just the normal cruise experience. Then there's Fantastica, which also includes if you want to change some things on your booking, if you just want to have some priorities for the tables and so on. This is the Fantastica, and then there's also but you have to keep in mind that it's over 100 euros more than the normal experience. Then there's a category for spa area, the Aurea Spa category, where you have wellness treatments and so on included. And just think about what you need and what you don't need. I normally either do the Bella or the Fantastica. It just depends on the price and so on, and what I need and what I don't need. So I think normally Bella is just fine. But yeah, it's just what you want to do on your cruise. So yeah, these are the things you can keep in mind for the booking. So I hope I could give you some tips where you can save money and what you have to think about when you book a cruise and so on. So the next topic is one I mentioned before a bit. It's getting to the port. So of course in your cruise all the days you spend on the ship are already included as in the cruise price, but how you get to the port where you leave, you have to think about. So MSC always offers some things. They always offer if you need an airplane and trains, and there are also buses to get to the ports. It depends on where your cruise starts and so on. We normally do the bus thing from Stuttgart. It's not that cheap. I have to say it's about 180 euros. You have a night at a hotel nearby Verona, so that's normally a really nice hotel room, and it's nice that you don't have to drive all the way and sleeping at the bus, which I don't really like. Normally I like the bus drive, but if you don't want to do that, there's other ways. You can either do a vacation in Venice before, so you can drive there by car if you're in Europe, but you have to remind that you have to pay the price for the parking and so on. So there are many different options, and you just have to give a look and also just compare the prices. The flights of MSC Cruises are normally really cheap, but I think there are even more cheap ways, so just look, compare the prices. And you also have to keep in mind, if you buy the offers from MSC, they always look for you, so you don't have to fear that the cruise will leave without you, because if there's some problem, they will talk with MSC Cruises and they will normally wait for you if there's any problems. But I never had a problem, because normally if you do the bus thing, you arrive so early in the morning that you can't even go to the ship because the other people didn't even leave the ship and so on. So yeah. So it's a bit more comfortable to buy over MSC Cruise, but you can save a lot of money if you don't do it there. But I normally like it, and I think it's just one thing it's just more easier, so that's why I always do the transfer with MSC Cruises. And of course it also depends on where you live and where you want to do the cruise. Because if you already live in Italy, then you just can go on the cruise without even thinking to get rid of port if you live in Venice or Genova and so on. So the next topic is, I think, one of the most important things. It's life at MSC Cruises. I want to tell some things about life at a MSC cruise ship, and because I get many questions on my video about it. And so the first thing I want to tell you about is the lunch and dinner and breakfast. There's always two options to do your meals. You can always do your meals at the buffet restaurant, and you can always go to the restaurants, and both things are included. The only thing which is not included in the cruise price is if you want to do a special restaurants where there are different things, like there's in the MSC Mohr where I've been, there is a Mexican restaurant, or sometimes there are some Italian or Asian cuisine restaurants, so it just depends on your cruise, but the special restaurants are not included. The only thing that are included is the buffet and the normal restaurants, but you will see what restaurants are included and what not. So if you want to have a huge selection and just don't want some service or anything, go to the buffet restaurants. I really prefer them on the breakfast, because I've been to the breakfast in the restaurant and they always, it's not, I just want to select the things myself. I don't want to select it out of a card. What I really like is to do my dinner and my lunch at the restaurants, because it's much more chilling. You can just sit there and they bring everything for you, and most of the time they have a good selection of what you can do, not as big as the buffet restaurants, but it's nice. The service staff is always really nice and so on, so I really liked it. But you have to keep in mind that if you go to the restaurants, the beverage is not for free. They don't offer you any free water or so on. So if you want to drink there, it always costs a thing. And in a buffet restaurant, you can always just use the normal water which is provided for you. So at dinner you have to do the normal restaurants, because there are sometimes entertainment, and it fits more. There are some different evenings. There's a gala dinner, so you have to get dressed nicely. Sometimes there's a 60s or 70s dinner, so you can just do some a bit costuming. Normally most people don't look on the things, but I and my family, we really like to just try to fit the themes. But you don't have to, of course, but it's just one nice thing, and so that's why I really like to go in restaurants for dinner. At lunch I normally like to go there too, but it depends. If you don't have that much time, if you're not even on the ship because you did an excursion, the restaurants most of the time even have closed, so the buffet is of course great too. So it just depends if you want to have a more chilling experience, don't want to think about that much, or if you want to have a big selection. And it's also something which you can keep in mind. Other things is the theater entertainment, and I would really recommend to give it a try even once, because the shows on the ships are so great. I never see any shows like that. They're really professional, and they get more professional each year. Of course, the shows on the bigger ships are just more overwhelming. On the new ship, the MSC Cruise, or I don't know if I pronounce it right, they even have a co-op with Cirque du Soleil. So you see, the best show I ever see was on the MSC Davina, and it was a Michael Jackson show, and it was so good that I just had goosebumps after the show. It was so good. And but it depends. There sometimes some shows are not that good, but most of the time they're really perfect and they're really entertaining. But just look on your program. Every day you will get a daily program, and they will tell you about what shows there will be, and give it a try. I think you will like it. And of course there are some other stuff. There's really much of entertainment apart from the theater stuff, which I'm not a fan because most of the time it's said to be funny, but I don't think it's funny. And so on. It just depends what you like. And they also have a good nightlife on the ships. I don't use it that much either because most of the time I spend my cruises doing excursions and discover the cities, and I have to go to bed early because we have to get up early to do the things on the cities and so on. So, but the ones I did were great, and they also have great bars, so with good cocktails and so on. There are so many things to mention about their life at MSC Cruise ships, and I think again I definitely forget some things to mention. So if you have any questions on the topic, write them down below, and I hope I can answer, or maybe I will do a video dedicated more to the things if I forgot too much. But yeah, so let's move on to the next topic, which is excursions. And this is also a big topic because this is where you can save your money. So I would recommend to do at least excursions as you can with MSC because they are really expensive. It's just like it is. I try to do most of excursion by myself. So for example, the last cruise, which you can see on the vlog, and when I've been to Valencia as a city is beautiful to see by yourself, and you can see it without doing a tour. But there's some different places where it's harder to do a tour by yourself. How do I do that? How do I decide when I do an excursion and when I do not an excursion with MSC? So it's always a bit complicated. I always do some research, what I can see by myself in that city. Is it worth a visit? And if I see that many things I can just do a tour around the city by myself, I don't do a tour with MSC, I don't book an excursion. But there are some things you have to keep in mind. Is the port where the ship is nearby the center of the city? If you can go there by foot, you don't need an excursion. If you would need a taxi or shuttle, you can also book a taxi, which is really cheap most of the time. Or sometimes MSC does offer you some shuttle buses where you can drive around back and forth from the city center to the ship as many times as you want to. And sometimes they're even for free, and sometimes they cost some money. But it's sometimes just cheaper to buy a shuttle than to book a whole excursion if the city by itself offers you enough. And the last thing I always look is how long I will be there with the ship. If I just have 4 hours to be on the city, it's most of the time better to do an excursion, because if you do the excursions, you know the ship will wait for you because there are many other people with you, and they always talk with the ship if there are some problems not arriving when the ship leaves. So yeah, you're always safe if you do an excursion. So these are the three things. The city, what do the offers? Can I arrive the city center per foot, or do I need a shuttle? And the last thing, how long do I have at the port or the city? And of course, one thing when I really like to do excursion, are there some things I could have not done with myself. So if I be on an island, I normally do book an excursion, because then you drive around the bus and see so many things on the island which you could not do by yourself. Or there's some excursions where you can do some sport activities and so on, and these are things which would be really hard to try to do yourselves and so on. So yeah, but yeah, I hope I could help you. And yeah, so we're on the last topic, and it's topic number 6, enjoy. So my last tip for you is just do enjoy your cruise. Just, yeah, this is the most important thing. Just try to enjoy your cruise. Don't think about the money. Don't think about everything that much. But of course preparation is really important if you want to have a special cruise. So my last tip is try to do every preparations before you go on the ship, and when you're on the ship don't think about everything that much. You have your preparations done, you know what to do, and you don't have to think about everything, so just enjoy. But do your preparations before if you want to save money and if you want to have a good time. But when you're on the ship, just let everything as it is and don't think about it that much. So yeah, I hope I could help you, and I hope this video will give you some information about doing a cruise with MSC. And yeah, if you have any questions, just write them down below, and yeah, thanks for watching and goodbye.